Lights, camera, action, and welcome back to Soundtrack Collector. I'm your host, Christopher Spencer, author of Film and Television Scores 1950 to 1979, a critical survey by genre. Like with my last video on Lalo Schifrin, this one is special because it's about another film composer who inspired me to collect soundtracks in the first place, John Barry, the man who created the James Bond sound that has carried through 25 films and likely more to come. John Barry was more than a film composer. He was a storyteller in sound. Born in York, England in 1933 and raised in a family immersed in the cinema business, Barry was drawn to the screen from an early age. After military service and forming his own band, the John Barry Seven, he transitioned from pop charts to picture houses, bringing with him a fresh orchestral sensibility and a gift for melody. Of course, his major breakthrough came with James Bond. Though uncredited for the original James Bond theme on Dr. No, it was Barry's arrangement that established the franchise's musical DNA. Bold brass, sleek strings, a guitar lick played by Vic Flick, and just enough jazz to make it dangerous. He would go on to score 11 Bond films in total, shaping the sonic identity of espionage for a generation. But Barry wasn't defined by Bond. His career spanned more than 5 decades, scoring over 100 films and television productions and crossing genres with ease. From sweeping historical dramas like The Lion in Winter and Mary Queen of Scots, to atmospheric thrillers such as Body Heat and The Ipcress File. In works like Out of Africa and Dances with Wolves, Barry proved his ability to write emotionally resonant themes that elevated the storytelling without overpowering it. His signature style blended classical orchestration with modern sensibilities, lush strings, expressive motifs, and an uncanny ability to evoke mood with just a few notes. He wasn't afraid to innovate either, incorporating synthesizers and early digital recording techniques on major scores like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Barry won 5 Oscars, 4 Grammys, and influenced generations of composers who followed, not just in film music, but in other genres. His music didn't just accompany stories. It helped define their emotional core. This list is more than a ranking. It's a tribute to a composer who reshaped the sound of modern cinema. So without further ado, let's crack the top 15. At number 15, I have From Russia with Love from 1963. John Barry's first full score for the Bond franchise. It wasn't just a sequel, it was a statement. After arranging the iconic James Bond theme in Dr. No, Barry took the reins for From Russia with Love and began crafting the unmistakable musical identity of 007. The score introduced a new motif, the high-octane 007 theme, a bold, brassy counterpoint to the suave elegance of the original Bond theme. Energetic and propulsive, it became a musical signature in its own right, recurring in several later Bond films. Barry infused the score with Eastern European textures, modal harmonies, exotic percussion, and instruments like the cymbalum, helping to ground the film in its Cold War setting. Meanwhile, the romantic main theme, sung by Matt Monro and woven throughout the score, provided warmth and emotional contrast. Orchestrated with a full ensemble at CTS Studios in London, the soundtrack showcased Barry's command of jazz, classical, and pop idioms. His use of lush strings, jazzy rhythm sections, and sharply defined brass brought sophistication and swagger to the screen. With Zulu, Barry delivered his first major epic, a powerful and innovative score that merged tribal rhythms with Western orchestral grandeur. Set during the Battle of Rorke's Drift, the film gave Barry the chance to create something bigger, bolder, and more culturally textured than anything he had attempted before. Interestingly, he would go on to do more scores set in Africa, but more on that later. Recorded with a 70-piece orchestra, Barry's score is dominated by thunderous timpani, soaring brass fanfares, and cascading strings, all anchored by a stirring main theme that evokes both the majesty and brutality of colonial warfare. It's music built for scale, but handled with restraint. What sets Zulu apart is Barry's integration of authentic African musical elements. He wove Zulu war chants and rhythmic motifs into the score, not just as exotic color, but as narrative force. Tracks like Zulu Stamp and Monkey Feathers blend piccolo, electric guitar, and percussive patterns with traditional Western harmony, creating a soundscape both dramatic and respectful. Barry's approach here was more textural than thematic, using repetition, tension, and dynamics to build atmosphere rather than constant melody. It was a bold synthesis, years ahead of its time, and a precursor to his later work on cross-cultural scores like Cry the Beloved Country. Though the original release featured only a fraction of the full score, later expansions revealed its full depth, a masterwork of cinematic fusion that marked Barry's rise as a composer of global scope. At number 13, I have Body Heat from 1981. With Body Heat, Barry brought a smoky, sultry sound to modern noir that was entirely his own. Lawrence Kasdan's steamy thriller demanded a score that could whisper seduction and hint at danger in the same breath. And Barry delivered one of his most evocative works of his career. At the center is a haunting main theme, a slow, winding melody played on alto saxophone by Ronnie Lang, backed by lush strings and soft electronics. It's Maddie's theme, but it's also become the film's pulse, sensual, mysterious, and just slightly dangerous. This was noir for the 1980s, drenched in atmosphere but with modern sheen. Barry blended jazz quartet elements, sax, piano, bass, drums with orchestral textures, creating a score that felt both intimate and cinematic. The improvisational feel of the saxophone is balanced with carefully constructed string arrangements and subtle use of low-end piano, xylophone, and ambient electronics. It's a delicate tension, romance and suspense, elegance and deceit. Recorded in early 1981 and later expanded in a definitive 2012 release, the score showcases Barry's growing mastery of emotional compression, evoking entire character arcs in a single cue. Body Heat helped define the sonic language of neo-noir and remains a benchmark in Barry's catalog, seductive, sophisticated, and utterly unforgettable. At number 12, I have Somewhere in Time from 1980. Few scores in Barry's career have connected with audiences as deeply as Somewhere in Time. A film about love that transcends time needed music that felt just as eternal, and Barry delivered a score that would become his most beloved and his best-selling. Initially passed over due to budget limitations, Barry joined the project through the influence of actress Jane Seymour and agreed to work for a share of the soundtrack royalties. That decision would pay off, not just financially, but artistically. The resulting score is a masterclass in romantic film music. At its heart is a sweeping, melancholic main theme, lush strings, piano lines that ebb and flow with emotional intensity. Barry also wove in Sergei Rachmaninoff's 18th variation from the Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, blending classical elegance with his own lyrical voice. The effect is seamless, enhancing the film's themes of longing and timeless connection. The orchestration is warm and expressive, with piano motifs that feel personal and reflective, while the strings create a sense of grandeur and yearning. Barry doesn't overscore. Instead, he allows the music to breathe, supporting the narrative's emotional peaks with sensitivity and grace. The score has since become a cultural touchstone for romantic cinema. Its success and longevity speak to Barry's unmatched ability to capture deep feeling and sound. Music that doesn't just accompany love, but seems to remember it. At number 11, I have Robin and Marian from 1976. Here, Barry composed one of his most tender and emotionally layered scores, a poignant companion to a story about love, aging, and the quiet dignity of fated heroes. Richard Lester's revisionist take on the Robin Hood legend called for something far removed from traditional swashbuckling music. Barry responded with restraint and lyricism, writing a score rooted in personal feeling rather than adventure. At its heart is a love theme for Robin and Marian, elegant, melancholic, and widely considered one of the most beautiful melodies of his career. Barry's style here is fully in his mature, late romantic mode. Slow-moving string lines, gentle woodwinds, and warm French horn voicings. Rather than fanfares or flourishes, the music breathes with subtle dynamics and harmonic color. There's sorrow in it, but also serenity. It's a score that honors the weight of time, of reunion, and inevitable partings, Moments of heroism and tension are scored with soft brass and light percussion, always supporting, never overwhelming. The orchestration feels close and intimate, inviting the audience into the emotional core of the story. It's music that lingers. Though the original LP became a rare collector's item, later re-recordings introduced this gem to new generations. Today, Robin and Marian stands as a testament to Barry's ability to find profound emotion in quiet moments and to tell love stories through melody alone. At number 10, I have Diamonds Are Forever from 1971. With Diamonds Are Forever, Barry embraced glamour, seduction, and a sly sense of danger. At the center is the sultry title song, performed by Shirley Bassey in her second Bond appearance. With lyrics by Don Black and a melody dripping in mystery and allure, it became one of Barry's most enduring themes and the backbone of the entire score. Variations on the song and its sound appear throughout, tying together romance, intrigue, and suspense with graceful cohesion. Set largely in Las Vegas, the music leans into jazz, lounge, and pop textures, smooth strings, sneaky woodwinds, harp glissande, and sly rhythmic accents. The result is a sonic world that feels decadent and dangerous, especially in cues for eccentric assassins Mr. Wint and Mr. Kidd, or the shimmering neon landscape of Vegas. Barry holds back the bombast here. The traditional Bond brass is present, but used sparingly, trading sheer power for cool sophistication. It's a score that glides more than punches, matching the film's camp tone and glossy visuals. Diamonds Are Forever cemented a new direction for the Bond sound, seductive, stylish, and effortlessly modern. It's a testament to Barry's ability to evolve with the series without losing its signature musical identity. At number 9, I have The Lion in Winter from 1968. Here, Barry stepped into an entirely new sonic world, one of medieval tension, sacred ritual, and emotional warfare. Set in 12th century England, the film demanded music that could feel both ancient and emotionally immediate. Barry responded with a bold, choral-driven sound that remains one of his most sophisticated and haunting works. This is not Bond's brass or sweeping romance. This is liturgy, Latin chant, chilling beauty. Barry immersed himself in sacred texts and early music traditions, crafting a score that blends Gregorian-style vocal writing with expressive orchestral color. The result is a sound that feels as much like an extension of the church as it does court. Wordless chorals create an ethereal sense of awe and melancholy, while tracks like Eleanor's Arrival bring warmth through trumpet solos and English horn, only to be undercut by tension that underlies every family interaction. The sacred becomes sinister, joy curdles into menace. Bells, solo brass, and the recurring Dies Irae motif evoke judgment, power, and fragility. It's a deeply psychological score, regal yet intimate, ancient yet cinematic. Barry doesn't just score the setting, he scores the emotional fractures of a royal family tearing itself apart. The Lion in Winter was a revelation in 1968, and it remains a high watermark in historical film music, a daring fusion of choral tradition and modern scoring that continues to inspire to this day. At number 8, I have Born Free from '66. Here, Barry composed a melody that would outlive the film itself, a theme that became a cultural anthem for freedom, love, and the natural world. This was Barry's breakthrough moment on the world stage, and it marked the beginning of his reputation as a composer of deeply emotional, instantly memorable music. The film, based on the true story of Elsa the Lioness, needed a score that could capture both its vast African landscapes and intimate emotional journey. Barry delivered both, crafting a lush orchestral score rooted in the sweeping melody and careful use of local color. The opening cue and instrumental version of the title theme is majestic and serene, while Matt Monroe's vocal recording over the end credits earned the Academy Award for the Best Original Song. Barry's palette blends symphonic richness with African percussion and modal harmony. He uses playful woodwinds and xylophone to evoke Elsa's youth, while swelling strings and brass underscore her journey toward freedom. Moments of danger and loss are given emotional weight through tense, brooding orchestration, but always framed within the score's larger sense of warmth and hope. The success of Born Free was massive, not just critically but culturally. The theme became a standard recorded by hundreds, and Barry took home 2 Oscars. More than any earlier work, this film revealed his gift to write melodies that could speak to anyone, anywhere. At number 7, I have Out of Africa. In this African setting, Barry delivered one of the most sweeping and emotionally resonant scores in film history. Winner of the Academy Award for Best Original Score, it's a masterclass in romantic orchestration, marrying symphonic elegance with deep personal emotion and a sense of place that feels almost mythic. The main theme, often called I Had a Farm in Africa, is one of Barry's most iconic melodies, broad, yearning strings carried by French horn and piano, evoking memory, longing, and the vast sun-drenched plains of Kenya. It recurs throughout the film, sometimes whispered, sometimes in full majestic bloom. Barry balances this grandeur with intimacy in the love theme for Karen and Dennis, using solo woodwinds and piano to underscore their fleeting connection. Mozart's clarinet concerto, used in the famous flying sequence, blends seamlessly with Barry's original material, highlighting the tension between European refinement and the untamed African landscape. The orchestration, performed by the London Symphony Orchestra, is lush but never overwrought. Strings dominate, but horns, winds, and choir provide texture and lift. The result is music that floats above the landscape while anchoring the emotional core of the film. Out of Africa didn't just earn Barry awards, it solidified his legacy as a composer of emotional storytelling. This is film music at its most graceful, timeless, lyrical, and inseparable from the story it helps to tell. At number 6, I have Dances with Wolves from 1990. After a 2-year hiatus due to illness, John Barry returned with a score that would redefine the epic Western and stand as perhaps the greatest achievement of his career outside of the Bond franchise. Dances with Wolves is music on a grand scale, emotionally rich, melodically driven, and deeply human. At the heart of the score is the John Dunbar theme, a lyrical, noble melody carried by solo trumpet, French horn, and strings. It expresses not just heroism, but curiosity and reverence. As Dunbar's journey unfolds, Barry introduces sweeping landscape themes, quiet moments of reflection, and a deeply felt love theme for his relationship with Stands with a Fist. Barry also wrote themes for Two Socks, the wolf, Cisco, the horse, the Sioux, and even the buffalo herds. Each simple, memorable, and rooted in warmth and dignity. Importantly, he avoided the overt quotation of Native American music, instead scoring the score from Dunbar's perspective, a Western orchestral sound that evokes awe and connection rather than appropriation. Recorded with a massive orchestra and choir, the score balances intimacy and grandeur. Quiet flute and harp passages sit alongside full brass fanfares and rolling percussion. Choir adds weight without ever overwhelming the emotion. Everything is calibrated for story. Dances with Wolves won the Oscar and Grammy for Best Score. Its influence goes far beyond awards. It reshaped the sound of historical epics and confirmed John Barry as a composer capable of turning wide-open landscapes into symphonic poetry. At number 5, I have You Only Live Twice from '67. If Goldfinger was the blueprint for Bond's brash, swaggering sound, then You Only Live Twice is its romantic, dreamlike counterpart. With this score, John Barry gave the franchise one of its most hauntingly beautiful themes, and it demonstrated a new level of sophistication in film scoring. At the heart of the film is the title song, a lush, melancholic melody sung by Nancy Sinatra. Despite a famously tense recording session, the result is iconic, sweeping strings, floating harmonies, and a melodic line that lingers. Barry recasts this theme in multiple instrumental guises throughout the film, as romance, suspense, and even action. What sets this score apart is its blend of East and West. Barry incorporated pentatonic scales, delicate percussion, harp, celeste, and woodwinds to evoke Japan's landscape without falling into caricature. These textures give the score a sense of wonder and atmosphere, enriching the globe-trotting Bond identity with something more reflective and immersive. Action cues remain dynamic, especially the sequences like Little Nelly and the volcanic ninja assault, but they're more stylized than bombastic, matching the film's surreal tone. The orchestration is elegant, refined, and always melodic. You Only Live Twice set a new standard for how international settings could be woven into the Bond musical fabric. It remains a cornerstone of the series' sound, romantic, mysterious, and unmistakably Barry at his most lyrical. At number 4, I actually have my personal favorite James Bond score. This could easily be number 1 for me, but I'm trying to be objective here. My number 4 is Thunderball from 1965. You know, if Goldfinger launched Bond music into the pop cultural stratosphere, the next film, Thunderball, cemented its sonic signature. Bold, brassy, unapologetically massive. With this score, Barry took the Bond sound and blew it up to blockbuster proportions, and in doing so, helped define the musical language of action cinema for decades. The film's title song, sung with operatic bravado by Tom Jones, is built on a sweeping minor key melody that recurs throughout the score. Originally, the more sultry Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was set to headline, but late production changes led Barry to rework the score around the new title track, and the result is one of the most thrilling integrations of song and score in the franchise. Barry unleashes his full orchestral arsenal here. Blaring brass, thunderous percussion, swirling strings, and jazzy harmonic colors. Action cues are ferocious, especially during the underwater battle sequences where Barry conjures suspense and weightlessness with shimmering vibraphone, harp glissandi, and ominous low brass. You can see where Zimmer got some of his DNA from. Largo and Spectre receive shadowy, dissonant motifs, while romantic themes remain lush and emotionally grounded. The return of the 007 theme adds swagger and continuity to the action, showing Barry's skill at reusing motifs without redundancy. Everything feels grander, louder, longer, and more dangerous. Thunderball is the Bond score at full throttle, expansive, stylish, fearless. It set a high watermark, no pun intended, for action scoring, and its influence can be felt in nearly every modern spy thriller today, or even something like Inception. At number 3, I have The Ipcress File from 1965. If Thunderball was about grandeur, The Ipcress File was about intimacy, tension, and alienation. With this score, Barry didn't just write music, he created atmosphere. Gone is the globe-trotting glamour of Bond, and in its place is a shadowy mundanity of espionage in the real world. Barry's most striking choice, the Cymbalum, a Hungarian hammered dulcimer used as the lead voice for the main theme. Its sharp metallic twang immediately sets the tone, unsettling, foreign, and cold. Accompanied by vibraphone, flute, harp, and low strings, the theme, often referred to as a man alone, paints Harry Palmer as a man out of place, wrapped in a gray, bureaucratic world. Where Bond's music swaggers, Barry's score here lurks. Jazz influences abound, subtle brushes on drums, moody bass lines, harmonic dissonance, but always in service of the character, not spectacle. Melodies are sparse, motifs shift between sensual and sinister, and the orchestration is lean but emotionally loaded. This score did more than complement the film. It redefined the musical language of the spy genre. It showed that espionage stories could be scored with restraint and psychological nuance. A major influence on later Cold War thrillers, including the Quiller Memorandum that Barry scored a year later. The Ipcress File remains a cult favorite, praised for its elegance and innovation. In the 90s, it was often referenced or sampled directly by electronic DJs looking for a mysterioso sound. With it, Barry proved that style didn't always need size. Sometimes it just needed the right sound at the right moment. At number 2, I have On Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969. For his 5th or 6th Bond film, depending on how you count, Barry reinvented the formula and by doing so created what many consider the finest musical achievement in the entire 007 series. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is both thrilling and tragic, modern and timeless. It's the moment where Bond's music becomes something deeper. Eschewing a traditional vocal title song due to the sort of cumbersomeness of the title, Barry composed a fully orchestral theme and a rare move for the franchise. Built on an Andalusian cadence and powered by a driving Moog synthesizer bass line, it brought electronic music into the Bond world for the first time. The theme is both muscular and melancholic, propulsive yet tinged with fatalism, perfectly mirroring the film's tone. The emotional centerpiece, however, is We Have All the Time in the World, performed by Louis Armstrong. With lyrics by Hal David, the song becomes a recurring love theme for Bond and Tracy, appearing as gentle strings and woodwinds in moments of tenderness and later sorrow. It's one of the most poignant motifs Barry ever wrote, not just for Bond, but for cinema at large. Barry also introduced seductive new cues like the slinky alto sax-led theme for Piz Gloria's Women and suspenseful string ostinatos for stealth scenes. His orchestration is rich and layered, bold brass, sweeping strings, icy flutes. It's all grounded by that now iconic synth pulse. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is Barry at his most experimental and most emotional. It pushed the boundaries of what Bond music could be and proved that even in a world of spies and danger, there was room for genuine heartbreak. Now, before we get to number one, let's go through some honorable mentions. It was really difficult to narrow it down to just 5. I could have gone on and on and on. I'll give you 5 representative throughout his career. Boom! From 1968, one of Barry's most atmospheric and theatrical scores, combining lush romanticism with avant-garde flourishes. It's bold, strange, and strikingly beautiful, a surreal gem from his 60s peak. The Deep from 1977, a blend of underwater suspense, disco rhythms, and Barry's signature string writing. It's a daring mix of pop production and film scoring craft, moody, immersive, and unique. The Black Hole from '79, one of Barry's darkest and most haunting works, combining gothic orchestration with early digital recording techniques, a brooding operatic take on sci-fi, both grand and claustrophobic. The Living Daylights from '87, this was Barry's final Bond score and one of his most forward-thinking. Electronic rhythm tracks blend with sweeping orchestration, showing his ability to evolve the Bond sound without losing its soul. And Chaplin from 1992. Elegiac and heartfelt, this Oscar-nominated score weaves Barry's lush romantic style with thematic references to Chaplin's own music. A loving tribute that reflects both nostalgia and grace. All right, without further ado, my number one, it had to be Goldfinger. 1964, Goldfinger wasn't just another Bond film. It was the moment the franchise exploded into global pop culture, and John Barry's score was a huge part of that. With this music, Barry didn't just elevate the film, he created an identity. Goldfinger is the origin point of the Bond sound as we know it. Bold, brassy, seductive, and unmistakably cool. The title song, sung by Shirley Bassey, is one of the most iconic in movie history. Dramatic brass stabs, sultry orchestration, and Bassey's soaring vinyl note, achieved under famously dramatic studio conditions, created a masterful sound that would echo through the franchise for decades. Barry wove its melody, those ominous 3-note blasts, into the entire score, linking theme and story like never before. The orchestration is Barry at full strength, explosive brass, swinging rhythm sections, jazzy harmonic progressions, and strings that shift between lush romance and taut suspense. Action cues surge with energy, especially his refined use of the 007 theme and his continued use of the Bond motif. Even Goldfinger himself gets a musical identity, sinister, reserved, but unmistakably threatening. Stylistically, this was a pivot point. Barry blended big band jazz with cinematic orchestration, inventing a sound both contemporary and timeless. It shaped not just Bond, but the entire action genre of the 60s. His decision to embed the title theme throughout the underscore was revolutionary and would become a franchise standard. Goldfinger didn't just set the bar, it forged it. This is the score that turned Bond into more than a character, it made him a musical icon. And for John Barry, it was the moment his signature sound went from brilliant to legendary. So That's my top 15 of John Barry. Did I miss any of your favorites? I'm sure I did. Leave a comment, let me know, and while you're at it, like, subscribe. You know the drill. Next time on the Soundtrack Collector, we'll be taking a look at a genre that might surprise you, even scandalize you. The sleazy listening soundtracks associated with softcore European cinema of the 1960s and 70s. We're talking Piero Umiliani, Nico Fidenko, Gert Wilden, Peter Thomas, Manfred Hubler, and Siegfried Schwab, and so on. Till next time, keep collecting and listening to great soundtrack music.